Behind the dumpster, 15-year-old Jordan Riley pressed his back against cold brick, clutching his backpack like a lifeline. 3 days ago, he'd walked out of his father's house with bruises blooming across his ribs and words still echoing in his skull. Words that had turned him from son to stranger in a single furious minute. Now the midnight parking lot of the Crossroads Motel stretched before him, empty except for a row of motorcycles gleaming under fluorescent lights. Jordan had known this day would come eventually, the moment he'd have to speak his truth. He just hadn't expected his father's fists to arrive before his words finished. His mother had stood frozen in the kitchen doorway, too frightened of her husband's rage to step between them. Jordan had grabbed what he could carry and run, his father's voice following him into the night. "You're dead to me. You hear me? Dead." The morning air carried the scent of diesel and dew as Jordan emerged from his hiding place. His stomach cramped with hunger. He couldn't remember when he'd last eaten, maybe yesterday at the gas station where he'd used his last $5 on a sandwich. His older sister Lauren lived 200 miles away in the city, and he had no way to reach her. No money for a bus, no phone that still worked after his father had smashed it against the wall. Jordan walked through the parking lot, each step measured and careful. He'd spent the night behind that dumpster, listening to voices and laughter from the motel rooms, feeling more alone than he'd ever felt in his life. His father's words played on repeat in his head, mixing with older memories, baseball games and fishing trips, and the father who'd taught him to ride a bike, all of it poisoned now by hatred he couldn't understand. Something glinted near one of the motorcycles. Jordan stopped, looking around the empty lot before approaching. A ring lay on the asphalt, heavy and silver, catching the early light. He picked it up, feeling its weight in his palm. The Hells Angels' skull stared up at him from the metal, and his father's voice echoed again. "Stay away from those bikers, boy. They're dangerous. They're criminals." Jordan turned the ring over, about to set it on the motorcycle seat and walk away. Then he saw the inscription on the inside, tiny letters carefully engraved. "Love is love, Dad." The words hit him like a punch to the chest. He stood there in the empty parking lot, clutching this stranger's ring, and felt something break open inside him. Tears came then, hot and sudden, because someone somewhere had a father who'd had those words engraved, who'd given this ring as a promise. He sat down on the curb, the ring still in his hand. Every instinct screamed at him to run, to leave this thing and disappear before whoever owned it came looking. His father had drilled that fear into him for years. Bikers were dangerous, violent, people to avoid. But Jordan couldn't stop staring at those words. "Love is love, Dad." The motel door opened. Jordan's heart hammered as a large man stepped out, leather vest stretched across broad shoulders, gray threading through his dark hair. The man walked toward the motorcycles, and Jordan knew with absolute certainty that this was the ring's owner. He could leave it on the ground and run. He could pretend he'd never seen it. He could keep the fear his father had planted and let it grow. Instead, Jordan stood up. His hands shook as he approached, the ring feeling like it weighed 100 pounds. The man was checking his motorcycle, running his hand along the chrome, and Jordan had to clear his throat twice before any sound came out. "Excuse me, sir." His voice cracked. "I think you dropped this." The man spun around, his eyes going straight to the ring in Jordan's outstretched hand. For a moment, nobody moved. Then the man's face transformed, relief flooding across his features as he took the ring from Jordan's palm. "Jesus, kid." He clutched the ring to his chest, closing his eyes. "Jesus, where'd you find it?" Jordan pointed to the parking spot. "Right there, by your bike." He stepped back, ready to run if he needed to. His whole body felt tight with tension. The man opened his eyes, looking at Jordan more carefully now. His gaze caught on the bruises, the too thin face, the backpack that held everything Jordan owned. "Hey," he said, his voice gentler. "I'm not gonna hurt you. Thank you. Seriously. You have no idea what this means." He slid the ring back onto his finger, turning it so the inscription faced up. Jordan saw him read the words, saw his expression soften. Then the man looked at him again. "You okay? Those bruises look fresh." "I'm fine." The lie came automatically. "I just wanted to return your ring." Jordan turned to walk away, but his vision swam. He hadn't eaten enough, Hadn't slept more than a few hours in 3 days, and suddenly the parking lot tilted. The man's hand caught his elbow, steadying him. "When'd you last eat?" The kindness in the question undid something in Jordan. "I don't know. Yesterday morning, maybe." His voice came out small, defeated. "Come on." The man guided him toward the motel. "You're having breakfast. Name's Vincent, but everyone calls me Nomad." The diner attached to the motel smelled like coffee and bacon. Jordan sat across from Nomad in a worn vinyl booth, watching this stranger order enough food for 3 people. When it arrived, he tried to eat slowly, to maintain some dignity, but hunger overwhelmed pride within minutes. Nomad watched him quietly. "You running from someone?" Jordan's fork stopped halfway to his mouth. He set it down carefully. "My dad, he—" The words stuck in his throat. "He doesn't want me anymore." "Why not?" Jordan met Nomad's eyes, searching for judgment, for the same disgust he'd seen in his father's face. "Because I'm gay." The word felt heavy and strange in his mouth. This truth that had cost him everything. Nomad was quiet for a long moment. He looked down at his ring, turning it slowly. "You know why this ring matters so much to me?" Jordan shook his head. 5 years ago, my son came out to me, and I reacted like a complete asshole. Nomad's voice was rough with old pain. "Said things I'll regret for the rest of my life. Told him I didn't want to see him anymore, that he wasn't my son. Lost him for 3 years. Jordan stared at him, food forgotten. Spent those 3 years thinking about why I'd reacted that way. Realized I'd been taught to hate something I didn't understand. Fought like hell to get my son back, to prove I'd changed." Nomad held up his hand, showing the ring. "When we finally reconciled, he gave me this, had those words engraved. Love is love, Dad. It's a promise, you know, that I won't make that mistake again. You got him back?" Jordan's voice was barely a whisper. "Yeah." Nomad pulled out his phone, showing Jordan a photo. 2 men in tuxedos, arms around each other, beaming. "That's him and his fiancée. I'm heading to their wedding right now. First family event I've been invited to in 5 years. Jordan looked at the photo, at the obvious joy in both faces, and felt something crack in his chest. "My dad said I was dead to him. Your dad's wrong." Nomad's voice was hard now. "And he's going to regret it, just like I did. Where's your mom in all this?" Too scared of him to do anything. Jordan picked up his fork again, pushing eggs around his plate. "I have a sister, Lauren. She lives in the city, about 200 miles away. I was trying to figure out how to get there." Nomad was quiet, studying him. Then he pulled out his phone again and made a call. "Crow? Yeah, it's Nomad. Listen, I need you to do something for me." He paused. "There's a kid here who saved my ass. We're gonna help him out." Jordan watched as Nomad made several more calls, his anxiety building with each conversation. When Nomad finally set the phone down, his expression was serious. "Here's what's happening. The club has connections to an LGBT youth center about 40 miles from here. They've got a bed for you, counseling services, everything you need while we work some things out." He held up a hand as Jordan started to protest. "I'm also gonna track down your sister. Make sure she's okay with you coming to stay, help arrange transport. But first, we're gonna have a conversation with your old man." "No." Jordan's heart hammered. "Please. He'll what? Beat up a scared kid?" Nomad's voice was cold. "Not anymore, he won't. Trust me." 2 more bikers arrived within the hour. One was built like a mountain, with a beard that reached his chest and eyes that missed nothing. The other was lean and scarred, moving with the careful precision of someone who'd seen combat. Nomad introduced them as Brutus and Serpent. "This is Jordan," Nomad said. "He's the kid I told you about, the one who found my ring." Brutus looked at the ring on Nomad's finger, then at Jordan, and something shifted in his expression. "That's the wedding ring, the important one." "Yeah," Nomad's voice was soft. "That one." Jordan found himself in Serpent's car, following the motorcycles through town toward the youth center. The building was modest but welcoming, with rainbow flags in the windows and garden beds full of flowers. A woman met them at the door, middle-aged, with kind eyes and an easy smile. "I'm Pamela." She shook Jordan's hand. Nomad called ahead. "We're glad you're here." The next 5 days passed in a blur. Jordan had his own room, small but clean, with a lock on the door that he controlled. Counselors talked with him about trauma and processing and healing, words that felt foreign but necessary. Pamela helped him call his sister, who cried when she heard his voice and promised she'd have a place ready for him whenever he could get there. The bikers visited every day. Sometimes it was just Nomad, bringing food or sitting quietly while Jordan talked. Other times it was different club members, each checking in, making sure he was okay. They were working on something, Jordan knew, but nobody would tell him what. On the fifth afternoon, Jordan heard the motorcycles. Not just a few this time, many. He looked out the window and saw them arriving in formation, 20 bikes or more, plus several cars and a van. His stomach tightened with anxiety. Nomad entered the common room where Jordan was reading. His expression was serious. "Got someone here who wants to see you." Jordan followed him outside, his heart hammering. Then he saw her, his mother, stepping out of one of the cars, her face tear-stained and determined. She rushed to him, pulling him into a hug that made his ribs ache. "I'm so sorry," her voice broke. "I should have protected you. I should have left him years ago. I'm so sorry, baby." Jordan couldn't speak, couldn't do anything but hold on to his mother and feel something inside him start to heal. When they finally pulled apart, he saw the crowd, club members, youth center staff, people in business clothes holding folders and briefcases. "What's happening?" Nomad stepped forward. "We went and had a conversation with your old man." Jordan's blood went cold. "You didn't hurt him, did you?" "Didn't have to." Nomad gestured to the crowd. "Sometimes the threat's enough. Plus we brought backup." One of the people in business clothes stepped forward, a woman with graying hair and sharp eyes. "I'm Deborah Walsh, from the Family Justice Center. We've been documenting abuse in your household for years. Jordan, your neighbors called us multiple times. We just couldn't get your mother to press charges. Until now." His mother's voice was steadier than he'd ever heard it. "I left him. Filed a police report about the assault. Filed for divorce. He can either agree to attend mandatory counseling and anger management, or he faces charges for assault on a minor." Jordan stared at her. "You left him?" "I should have done it years ago." She touched his bruised face gently. "I was so scared. But these people," she gestured to the bikers, "they showed me I don't have to be scared anymore. They've arranged for us to stay with Lauren, got me connected to support groups, helped me understand my legal options." Another person stepped forward, a young man with a gentle smile and a rainbow pin on his jacket. "I'm Tim, from the LGBT Advocacy Center. We'll be working with the court to ensure your father completes appropriate education about LGBTQ+ issues as part of any plea deal. We've also arranged counseling for your whole family." Even him, Jordan couldn't keep the bitterness from his voice. Especially him. Tim's expression was serious. "Look, I'm not gonna lie to you. Some people never change. But some do, if they're willing to do the work. Your father's been given a choice: face the consequences of his actions, or start the hard process of becoming a better person." Jordan looked at Nomad, overwhelmed. "Why? Why are you all doing this?" Nomad knelt down to Jordan's level. "You returned that ring to me. You were scared, hungry, alone, and you still chose to do the right thing." He held up his hand, the ring catching the light. "This ring is a reminder of the biggest mistake I ever made. When I saw you, saw those bruises, heard your story, I saw myself 5 years ago, saw the damage I did to my son." He stood up, addressing everyone. "My boy forgave me, gave me a second chance, but not every kid has to forgive. Not every parent deserves it, so when I see a good kid being hurt by someone who's supposed to protect them, I'm damn well gonna step in." Brutus stepped forward, holding something wrapped in cloth. He unfolded it carefully, a leather patch, rainbow-colored, bearing the club's insignia. "You're under our protection now, Jordan. Anyone messes with you, they answer to us." Jordan took the patch with shaking hands. The rainbow colors seemed to glow in the afternoon light, and the skull in the center looked fierce and protective rather than frightening. "I don't know what to say." "Don't say anything." Nomad put a hand on his shoulder. "Just promise me something. When you're older, when you're safe and stable and have built a good life, promise you'll remember what it felt like to be this scared. And if you ever see another kid in trouble, you'll step in." I promise. Jordan clutched the patch to his chest. I swear. His mother spoke quietly. There's something else, baby. Lauren's apartment is small, but she's making space for both of us. We're going to rebuild, together. No more being scared. No more letting anyone hurt us. The reality of it hit Jordan all at once. He was leaving this town, leaving his father, starting over somewhere safer. The relief was so intense it made him dizzy. When? Tomorrow. Pamela stepped forward, smiling. Lauren's driving down tonight. We'll have a proper send-off breakfast in the morning. Nomad pulled out his phone again, showing Jordan another photo. Before you go, though, I wanted to ask you something. This is my son, Ethan, and his fiancée, Owen. Their wedding's in 2 weeks. They'd like you and your mom to come if you want to. Jordan looked at the photo, at these strangers who were offering him a glimpse of a future he'd barely dared to imagine. Really? Really? Nomad's smile was warm. Ethan said he wants to meet the kid who found his dad's ring. Said anyone brave, enough to approach a scary biker and do the right thing, is someone he wants to know. Over the next 2 weeks, Jordan's life transformed in ways he couldn't have imagined. His mother proved stronger than he'd ever known, working with lawyers and counselors, building a case not just against his father but against her own fear. Lauren's apartment was cramped but full of love, and Jordan started to remember what it felt like to be safe. His father was required to attend PFLAG meetings as part of his plea agreement, an alternative to assault charges that included anger management, family counseling, and mandatory education. Jordan's mother made it clear, until he completed the program and demonstrated genuine change, he wouldn't see his son again. The youth center received a donation from the club, $50,000 that would fund operations for a year and help dozens of kids like Jordan. Pamela called Jordan personally to tell him, her voice thick with emotion. You gave back that ring and look what happened. One act of kindness rippled out to help so many others. The wedding took place on a perfect June afternoon. Jordan stood with his mother and sister, watching Nomad walk his son down the aisle. Ethan looked radiant in his tuxedo, and when he saw his father's face, proud and loving and full of regret for lost time, Jordan understood something profound about forgiveness and second chances. At the reception, Ethan sought Jordan out. He was tall like his father, with the same steady eyes and gentle smile. You're the one who found the ring. Yeah. Jordan felt suddenly shy. I'm glad I did. It obviously means a lot to your dad. It means everything to him. He wore it every day for 2 years before I'd even speak to him again. Ethan sat down beside Jordan. You know what he told me when he called about you? He said you reminded him that kids shouldn't have to be the brave ones, that it's adults who need to do better. He saved my life. Jordan's voice was quiet. All of them did. No. Ethan's voice was firm. You saved your own life when you chose to return that ring instead of running away. Everything else just followed from that choice. Owen joined them, draping his arm around Ethan's shoulders. You must be Jordan. We've heard a lot about you. He grinned. Fair warning, you're stuck with us now. Nomad's already making plans to check in on you regularly. He takes his protective duties seriously. Jordan looked across the reception hall, where Nomad was dancing with his ex-wife, Ethan's mother, both of them laughing at some shared joke. The other club members were scattered throughout the crowd, these fierce and loyal people who'd rebuilt a broken family and then extended that protection to a stranger. I'm okay with that, Jordan said. Being stuck with you guys. 6 months passed. Jordan started at a new school where nobody knew his history or his father's name. He wore the rainbow patch on his backpack, and when other students asked about it, he told them the truth. He was protected. He was safe. He was loved. His father completed the PFLAG program. Jordan's counselor brought the news carefully, emphasizing that Jordan owed him nothing. Not forgiveness, not contact, not even acknowledgement. He's doing the work, she said, but that doesn't mean you have to see him or trust him. That's entirely your choice. Jordan wasn't ready. Maybe he never would be. But he appreciated that his father was trying, that the system had forced him to confront his prejudices and hatred. His mother reported that his father sent letters sometimes, apologizing, explaining what he was learning. She read them first, deciding what Jordan should see and what could wait. He's attending meetings with other parents of LGBT kids, she told Jordan one evening. He said, her voice caught. He said he's trying to become the father you deserved all along. Jordan didn't respond. The wounds were too fresh, the betrayal too deep. But somewhere in his chest, a tiny seed of possibility took root. Not forgiveness, not yet. But maybe, someday, understanding. The club remained a constant presence. Nomad stopped by every few weeks, checking in, bringing food, teaching Jordan to change a tire or check oil levels. Other members visited too, bringing stories and laughter and the fierce protection of chosen family. Jordan started volunteering at the youth center, helping other runaway kids, sharing his story with those who needed to hear it. He learned that trauma didn't define him, that survival was just the beginning of healing, that kindness could save lives. On a warm September afternoon, Jordan stood with the club at a pride parade. They had a whole contingent, 20 bikes, plus cars carrying members who couldn't ride, all of them wearing rainbow patches alongside their club colors. Jordan marched beside Nomad, feeling the weight of eyes on them, on this unlikely alliance of bikers and activists. His mother stood on the sidewalk watching, pride shining in her face. Lauren was beside her, holding a sign that read "Love is love" in bright rainbow letters. And there, at the edge of the crowd, barely visible, his father, wearing a P-flag t-shirt, tears streaming down his face, watching his son march with the people who'd protected him. Jordan saw him. Their eyes met across the parade route. Jordan didn't wave, didn't smile, didn't offer forgiveness, but he didn't look away either. He held his father's gaze for a long moment, letting him see what he'd almost destroyed and what he'd lost. A brave, kind, beautiful son who'd survived despite his father's hatred. Then Jordan turned back to the parade, to Nomad beside him and the club surrounding him, to the future he was building one brave choice at a time. Nomad's ring caught the sunlight, the inscription invisible but present, "Love is love, Dad." Words that had meant nothing to Jordan's father but everything to these fierce protectors who'd taught him that family was more than blood. The parade moved forward. Jordan moved with it, and somewhere in the crowd behind him, his father took his first steps on the long road to becoming someone worthy of forgiveness, even if that forgiveness never came. In the end, it wasn't about the ring or the rescue or the dramatic confrontation. It was about a scared kid who chose kindness when fear would have been easier. It was about adults stepping up to protect the vulnerable. It was about chosen family proving stronger than broken blood ties. It was about love, fierce and protective and unconditional, conquering hate one brave act at a time. And it started with a simple choice in a motel parking lot, when a runaway teen picked up a fallen ring and chose to do the right thing, even when the right thing terrified him. That single moment of courage rippled outward, transforming not just his life, but the lives of everyone his story touched. Because sometimes the smallest acts of kindness carry the greatest weight, and sometimes the people who look the most dangerous are the ones who'll protect you the fiercest. Jordan learned that truth behind a motel dumpster, and he'd carry it with him for the rest of his life. A reminder that there's always hope, always help, always someone willing to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. All you have to do is be brave enough to ask. If you have enjoyed the story, tell YouTube to send you more stories like this by subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and leaving a comment.